The long, long weekend. It's Miss Elle, and I'm going to read to you, boys and girls and everyone, the long, long weekend. Sunrise in the swamp. Is there a better time of day? The bats, the owls, the scary night creatures are in bed. The bullfrogs are still silent. The dragonflies are just opening their wings. They are slowest before they limber up. So if I can only get into the perfect position, I'll have a lovely breakfast. Class, may I have your attention? That's Mrs. Brixbane's voice. I was paying attention to my plan to catch a tasty dragonfly. But back to reality. I listen up. But all she says is something about lunch in the cafeteria, so I go back to daydreaming about that dragonfly. When the Tads come back from lunch, some of the students stop by our table. Hi, Og. It's Art, daydreaming boy. You know what? He asked. Sometimes I forget to pay attention in class and stare out the window. I know you don't do that. Now that you're here, sometimes I watch you. I watch you too, I tell him. He smiles. I say I'm funny. I notice Garth in front of Humphrey's cage, and he looks as happy as a feast with a wiggly worm in his mouth. Today is Friday, he tells the hamster. My big day. Humphrey sneaks happily, so I guess it's big day for him too. Squeaks happily. Soon Tabitha stops by my tank. She looks as unhappy as a worm caught by a fish. Oh, Og, she says, how do you like room 26? Tabitha has hardly spoken to anyone in class, so I'm surprised she is talking to me. It's not bad, I answered honestly. When she hears my boing, she'll break into a big smile. I think that must be the first time I've seen her smile. Boing, boing, I repeated, hopping up and down. You're so funny, Tabitha says. Don't you think so, Smiley? She looks to make sure no one is around. Then reaches in her pocket and pulls out a small, worn toy bear with a big smile sewed on his face. Smiley meets Og. It's not a real bear, thank goodness. Real bears are even scarier than snapping turtles. So I say, hi, Smiley. Tabitha giggles. Did you hear that, Smiley? That's how Og talks. Boing. She giggles again. That makes me happy. That makes me hoppy. That's funny. She giggles again. That makes me hoppy. Mrs. Brisbane calls the students back to their tables. But I feel proud that I made Tabitha smile. I'm in a good mood until the end of the day. That's when Humphrey starts to squeak excitedly. Garth is excited too. Before long, Garth with his pal AJ helps throw a blanket over Humphrey's cage and carries him out of room 26. Mrs. Brisbane smiles as she watches them. I'm in shock. Oh, are they kidnapping Humphrey? Or hamster napping him? If they are, Garth and AJ sure look happy about it. And so does Mrs. Brisbane. It doesn't make sense. I hear some squeak from the cage as the boys leave room 26. What is Humphrey trying to tell me? Maybe it's goodbye forever. Poor little furry guy. Those boys seemed so nice until now. Then Mrs. Brisbane leaves too, and I'm all alone in room 26. When I was in room 27 with George, I used to wish with all my heart that I could be alone. But this is more alone than I've ever been. What can I do? I'm stuck in a tank with a lid on it. It's a nice tank with a large water bowl, a few plants, a dry place with rocks, but it's a lot smaller than the swamp. The swamp. I think he misses the swamp. There's nothing I can do to help Humphrey, the missing hamster. So I do the only thing I can think of. I take a nap. I wake up when Elle comes into clean. He doesn't seem concerned that the hamster is missing. He smiles and talks while he sweeps and dusts. Watching Aldo was more entertaining than watching a hawk with a poor sense of direction. I hold my breath, hoping, and then he tosses me another cricket. I dine like a king of the swamp. But once Aldo leaves, room 26 is even quieter than on the weekends. I'm almost hoping for a loud ticking of the clock. Although I hardly notice it anymore. So I do what I did on lonely nights in the swamp. I sing. Oh, here we go. Oh, give me a home where the amphibians roam, where there's crayfish, turtles, and fish, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the insects are simply delish. Home, home on in the swamp, where there's crayfish and turtles and fish, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the insects are simply delish. Don't you laugh at my singing, boys and girls. I sing all the songs I can think of, and then it's quiet again, except for the clock. With nothing better to do, I decided to spend a little time watching it, because it keeps changing. A small arrow moves in a slow circle, number by number, and a longer moves around in a faster circle, in the circle faster. After a while, I get it. The numbers stand for the hours. Oh, this might be very useful, especially in a classroom where I can't always count on watching the sun to tell what time of day it is. The faster the arrow must show the minutes. The faster arrow must show the minutes. There's a tiny arrow that races around the circle for the seconds. Humans must be smarter than I thought. The hour arrow moves completely around the clock several times as the weekend continues. That's a long time, but at least I have clean water. And I'm used to not eating on a regular schedule like humans and hamsters do. It would be easy to sit on a rock or float on the water all day, but I would get soft and flabby. After all, in the swamp, I was constantly leaping and hopping and moving from dry land to water and back. I decided to start an exercise program. First, I hopped into my water bowl and splashed as hard but as fast as I can. Then, instead of resting on my rock, I do jumping jacks, an exercise that is named for a friend of mine back in the swamp. Push-ups and big leaps. Each time I leap a little higher than the time before. When I look up at the clock, a lot of time has passed. I'm so tired, I fall right to sleep. Oh, before I know it, the door room to 26 opens and Mrs. Brisbane walks in. Og, she says, rushing to my tank. You're okay, Mrs. Loomis told me it was fine for you to stay here alone. But I worried about you all weekend. I'm fine, I tell her, hoping she'll understand. You certainly look well, she says. I would think so. My skin is beautiful, moist, and my muscles are in great shape for leaping. Ooh, little muscles. Then the door opens again. Garth and AJ are back with Humphrey's cage. I guess he wasn't kidnapped after all, or if he was, they got tired of his squeaking and brought him back. Once Humphrey and his cage are back in place, he starts right in. Squeak, 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 squeak. He seemed happy to be back. I decided to relax in the water, and after a while, the little fellow quiets down. Everything seems back to normal. Until the girl named Gail starts giggling. She keeps looking at my tank and laughing. Oh, it turns out that someone has taped a funny note to my tank. I can't see it, but Gail can't stop giggling about it. The somebody who put it there is Kurt, who likes to make people laugh. He tells jokes a lot, like this one. What kind of fly has a frog in its throat? A horsefly. I chuckled so hard, I almost croaked. Mrs. Brisbane takes the note off my tank, but I still can't see it. It has something to do with kissing a frog. Oh, I have my frog. See my frog? His name is Silver. Oh, kissing a frog. I wish I could tell the big tads that kissing is something we frogs don't do. Don't do that. I haven't been in room 26 for long, but I think that Kurt likes to call attention to himself. In the swamp, that's not always a smart thing to do. For instance, there are some very colorful, showy moths and dragonflies who love to swoop gracefully over the water. They're pretty, but I must say, the showiest insects don't last very long. But the toads, who are dull and plain and blend in with the mud and the muck, are hardly get noticed. Despite the interruption, our teacher gets class back on track quickly. While I was hoping to learn more about life cycle of frogs, Mrs. Brisbane started the day with something brand new. That she calls a spelling test. The good news is I learned some new words. I like the sound of the word jewel. Ooh, I like that sound word jewel too. Jewel. She moves right from the test to the big Tad's poems. When the students read what they've written, I understand most of the words. Amazingly, frog is repeated a lot. So is og, and og is a part of a frog. The poems are great, but maybe Gail is my favorite. Og is a green frog, and he's our classroom pet. I am? I never thought of myself as a pet before. I've always been a very independent frog. Being Gail, she stopped to giggle before she reads on. Of all the frogs I've ever seen, he's the best one yet. Wow, that makes me want to giggle. Richie's poem is very clever, too. Og the frog is not a dog or even a hog. He's an amphibian, but not from the Caribbean. Richie stumbles over amphibian. I stumbled over it too, boys and girls. And the Caribbean. And the teacher makes him repeat them. Oh, that happened a lot with Richie. Then she calls on Tabitha to read her poem. Tabitha looks scared. She pats her pocket where she keeps Smiley hidden. I got a pocket. I got Smiley hidden. Everybody's waiting to hear. But so far she hasn't opened her mouth. Go on. It will be fine. I'm bonging in encouragement. Tabitha is startled, but she starts reading her poem. She goes so fast it's hard to hear it at all. People think bears are mean, but they're never seen Smiley. He doesn't growl or make you sad. He won't ever be bad, Smiley. I don't care what people say. He helps me get through the day. Smiley. There's something sad about Tabitha in her poem. I don't understand it, though. And I don't understand why some other big tads roll their eyes when they hear what Tabitha says. What a baby, I hear someone whisper. That's not nice, calling somebody a baby. What a baby. After everybody shares a poem, Humphrey Sad squeaks make me feel a little weird. Humphrey has been around longer than I have, but there aren't any poems about him. Then Seth reminds him why. We all still love you, too, Humphrey, but we can't think of any words that rhyme with Humphrey or hamster. Do you understand, he asks. Humphrey squeaks back. I'm not sure what he's saying, but I guess that he feels a little left out. That's the way I felt back in the swamp when my best pal Jumpin' Jack played leapfrog with somebody else. Oh, your name doesn't rhyme, but mine does. I tried to explain to Humphrey. I don't want him to be upset. He squeaks back at me, squeak. But who knows what he's saying? I certainly don't. Oh my gosh, boys and girls, a long, long weekend. What do you think? It's time for Miss Elle to leave you. It's been my pleasure to read to you today. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.